and welcome to National Theatre Live for this very exciting broadcast of Alan Bennett's latest box office hit, People. Before the show starts, I'm going to give you a quick preview of future NT Live productions. I want to say a huge thank you to our sponsors, the global insurance company Aviva, who pay for all of these cameras which broadcast the show, and the enormous satellite on the roof which show the show to each of the 5 continents on the planet. Our broadcasts have now been watched by 1.25 million people. And without Aviva, we wouldn't be able to do the thrilling things that I'm about to tell you. Okay, in June, for the first time ever, we're going to be broadcasting a West End production. It's a new play by Peter Morgan called The Audience. It's directed by Stephen Daldry, whose last show was the London Olympic Games opening ceremony. And it stars the breathtaking Helen Mirren, reprising her Oscar-winning role as the Queen. It opened in London to unbelievably brilliant reviews. It's been called the theatrical highlight of 2013. And the only way you're now going to get a ticket is if you watch our broadcast on the 13th of June. Book in. Trust me, you won't want to miss that one. Then in September, we have another theatrical highlight. Adrian Lester takes the title role in Othello with the amazing Rory Kinnear as Iago. He was last here playing the lead in Hamlet. It's directed by Nicholas Heitner, is currently in rehearsals, and it looks set to be the next hot ticket at the National Theatre. And my last hard sales pitch is that we're going to finally bring you a broadcast of This House. It's such a popular show that it's had 2 runs at the National Theatre, both of which have sold out. It's set in the Houses of Parliament in 1976 and has been described as the British version of The West Wing. You can see it with us on May the 16th, and if you don't adore it, I will personally give you a refund. I won't really. Let us know on Facebook or Twitter what you think of tonight's show, and to find out about all our future broadcasts, have a look at our website, ntlive.com, which has had a little facelift recently. A bit like me. Not really. But before all of that, back to the main event. People is the first new play from Alan Bennett in 3 years. Following its run here at the National Theatre, the production's going to go on a tour of the UK. The play is set in Yorkshire, in the north of England, where Alan Bennett was raised, and its origins are very personal to him. We're going to show you a little 5-minute film about the play just before the show starts, and in it, Alan Bennett talks about what inspired him to write it and some of the themes that he set out to explore. I hope you enjoy it. Have a very good night. Good night.
What you don't understand is that if we don't give it to the Trust, we will be compelled to renovate it ourselves, and we do not have the money.
So sell the Chippendale.
No! It was made for the house. Oh, you never even used to like the house.
I don't like it or dislike it. It's home. Plus there are no people.
I wrote the play because, well, I call it an H really, of not knowing why it was that I often come away from a National Trust, and it doesn't need to be a National Trust house, any house that's open to the public, and come away feeling dissatisfied, and also to find myself irritated by other people and not knowing what they're looking for, or the fact they don't seem to be looking for anything.
The National Trust is a huge charity that exists to preserve old houses and buildings and landscapes. It's, fundamentally, unquestionably, in my view, a wonderful organization. The world would be a much poorer place without it. The big period of the loss of stately homes was really after the First World War, accelerating up to the 1950s, when I know that the loss of stately homes was running at the rate of about 2 a week. People simply couldn't afford to maintain these places. In this country, you had the most fantastic private residences that were ever built, and at least 2,000 of them disappeared in the 20th century. So the fact that the National Trust has been able to rescue a couple hundred of them is fantastically heroic.
I think he's very critical of it, because although they preserve, and allow the public to have access to something that they normally wouldn't have. He's saying, what a shame we couldn't cherish the things that actually mean something to us of the past. Not those things that are sellable, you know, selling bits of the past.
They're prepared to use anything to get people in and to keep abreast of the times, really, as they see it, with a kind of enthusiasm, probably, that is necessary to them as a commercial organisation, but to me is slightly alien.
Because nothing has been done to it for years. Henry did nothing and you've done nothing. It's just static.
Decay is a kind of progress.
Dotty!
I don't care.
I don't care, Alan. Decay is a kind of progress. Dotty, I don't care what you say.
It's a play about progress, really. It's a play about the kind of inherent tragedy of progress. The inherent tragedy involved in growing old and detached from where you started. It's much more a State of the Nation play than it is about the National Trust, because there's a very, very obvious clue in repeated denials that the House is a metaphor for England. In other words, it is. And he is talking about the commodification of England. He is talking about our failure to let things decay when it's time for them to decay.
Dear God, what's that?
The coal.
The coal?
After the war, the park was requisitioned for open cast mining.
I think that's the coal. Any fool would know that.
Coal. Oh, yeah.
The first time I came across open cast mining was when I used as a boy to be taken to Temple Newsham, which is the country house on the outskirts of Leeds. And in 1947, when I would have been 13, I suppose, the whole of the grounds were like a ploughed field. And this was fairly common in country houses around Leeds. And I thought then that it could never be recovered and so on, which was ridiculous, because in fact within 10 years it was exactly as it had been. But it made an impression on me, did that these places were fragile.
The mines are very important to him, the coal mines, because, you know, it's sort of his heritage, really, and he's so outraged that all those basic industries went.
These people who will come round, will they be Brits?
Mostly.
Who are Brits?
Today's people.
When did they come in?
The 80s again.
Where there is discord, may we bring harmony. Where there is error, may we bring truth. Where there is doubt...
But I think that in the 80s, the notion came in that all value is financial. That was from Mrs. Thatcher, and she would be proud of that. Nothing could be taken for granted. And it seemed to me the more that can be taken for granted in a civilised society, the better. That health and education and libraries, all the things that are under threat, the better a society it is.
The Trust is concerned with people, access. In a word, sharing. We ask the question, why should one share? Why should one share?
Well, from Lady Sackville's perspective, I don't think her options are very attractive at all, but she has to do something, and there are worse things to do than fall into the embrace of the National Trust. Simon Jenkins, he's president of the National Trust, talked about one property where the dowager lady insisted on coming into the main room and watching the television when horse racing was on. And she was, according to Simon Jenkins, she was voted best exhibit.
The stately homes of England, how beautiful they stand, to prove the upper classes have still the upper hand, though the fact that they have to be rebuilt and frequently mortgaged to the hilt is inclined to take the guilt off the gingerbread and certainly damps the fun.
England with all its faults, a country house with all its shortcomings, the one is not the other, however much the Trust would like us to think so. I will not collaborate in your conceit of country. It is a pretend England.
I mean, the fact that Dorothy can come out so fluently to the National Trust now, it's almost verse, and if you read the script, some of it's just sort of naturalistic, and then Dorothy will say something and there's only 3 words to a line, and then there's 2 words, and then there's, you know, and you go, oh, see, so this is like a bit of poetry or a bit of verse, because he's making his point about England. It could be something out of Henry V. I will not collaborate in your conceit of country. It is a pretend England. I remember once saying to him, it's not really how people speak. And he said, no, it's style.
We are proud of the stately homes of England.
South Yorkshire, and a fine rain falling. Keep it together, and action!
Are we dangerous?
One hip bath, 2 nursery fire guards, a croquet set, mallets, hoops and balls included, in its original Army and Navy Stores box. A poignant reminder of the time the house served as a convalescent home for officers during the First War. Well, it's the right date. Is she a recluse, then?
Who's she, the cat's mother? We're neither of us recluses.
A run of 17th century limewood panelling.
I go to the shop. That's not a recluse.
Some worm.
She doesn't, but you can't expect it.
5 leather fire buckets painted with the Stackpool arms.
You can't have them. They're for the roof. Recluse? People come all the time. The gas comes, the electric, and she plays billiards. Oh, she did, only there's a bath on the billiard table.
No problem. 1 Victorian nursery scrap screen, a rocking horse, similarly.
And sometimes I have a walk in the park.
How? It's a jungle.
Not our park. Over the hill, where the colliery was, they call it a park. A business park. No seats, no flowers. Prefabs, they look like. But no muck anymore.
Gas masks, 4. 4?
It's Arthur, the noble brother who was killed in the war. Henry, the naughty brother. And then Dorothy.
Why was Henry naughty? Drink?
And lorry drivers. As a baby, he was very wrinkled. The gas mask was an improvement. He was a love.
So that's 3. Whose is the other one?
Mine.
Now for the prize. A Chippendale bed in its original wrapping, never unpacked. Unbelievable.
Yes, and you can't have it.
Iris, leave the young man alone. This isn't a social call.
I'm only passing the time of day. Somebody has to.
Are you nearly done? Who are you talking to?
Nobody. Myself.
Does it remember?
if I tell it to.
Perhaps I should get one. Only who would I talk to?
It'll find you someone.
Really? What if I don't like him?
Then it'll find you somebody else. The bed.
No, Iris is right. You can't have the bed. I'm not a fool.
No problem. Now, what else? Let's see. Sets of skates, 2. Console table, 1. Parcel gilt, possibly Kent.
It's not Kent. Why do you think it's in the attic?
So who is it?
Gibbs, more likely.
Don't look at me. Iris knows.
Query Gibbs. A title for the sale. A piece of England.
A piece of flannel.
1 Coronation Stool, 1953.
No, you can't have that. The Trust may want that.
Are they in the picture?
My sister thinks so.
And you don't? You have issues where the Trust is concerned?
I don't know what that means.
You'll forgive my asking, but weren't you the model? My grandmother remembers you. I only mention it because I was wondering if it could be some sort of tie-in. Do you still have any of your old frocks?
Perhaps I do. Perhaps I don't.
Say they were in the attic. They could be part of the sale.
They are in the attic.
Various receptacles, a coal scuttle.
No buckets.
I told him.
Hardly buckets. A Wedgwood jardiniere? A 17th century close stool?
Buckets. The roof leaks. You're wanting to sell the few things in the house that still have a point.
What would be the endowment?
What of?
For the Trust. What land are you offering?
Land?
They don't just accept property for nothing. Cash or land, you have to pay them.
One has to pay them in order to make a gift? That's outrageous. Will my sister know this?
Well, she'll know. She's a vicar. She'll have kept it to herself.
You'd be better advised to sell the house outright and then dispose of the contents separately.
Through you, of course.
We could handle it, certainly.
My sister wouldn't approve. She keeps harping on about death duties.
The only people who pay death duties, Lady Dorothy, are those who have been too lazy to avoid them. Income tax, similarly.
My sister thinks the house and its contents should be kept together.
Yes. Although, personally, I think that's rather selfish. Release all your wonderful treasures onto the open market, and they're there for everyone to enjoy. It's a kind of emancipation. A setting them free to range the world. A sale room here, an exhibition there. Art, Lady Stackpoole, is a rover. The Adam furniture would break all records. The Chippendale desk is priceless.
Possibly, but what one truly wants is an ensuite bathroom. I long to be warm at night and be able to undress in front of the fire like I did as a child. Actually, these days, I'd be happy to undress at all.
To be honest?
To be honest, you're an auctioneer.
What I suggest is that we use the attic sale as a toe in the water, a hint of more to follow.
June permitting?
June?
The sister. She's an archbishop.
She's an archdeacon.
She's a madam.
I'm sure that did you decide to dispose of some of the grander items, the Louis XV Bergère, the Adam suite, we could come to some arrangement about the commission.
Oh, you charge commission too. You're all at it.
Oh, we charge the seller something. We charge the buyer more.
You're worse than the Trust.
So, don't sell. Gift the house and its contents to a grateful nation and see what thanks you get.
One doesn't want gratitude. All one wants is a non-Arctic bathroom. What I don't want is people traipsing through.
Who does?
The National Trust.
Exactly. I mean, don't get me wrong. Truthfully, hand on heart, the Trust has no more sincere admirer. As a business model, it's enviable. All those fervent dishwashers and painstaking cleaners of tapestry. That vast volunteer army doing the job for love or company or just to get out of the house. The Trust's actual wage bill must be minute. All those worthy women and occasional men sitting sentinel in every room. And for what? a cup of tea and a flapjack. The Trust has found a way of capitalizing on goodwill. Service to the big house. It's the new feudalism.
One never saw much wrong with the old. All this and we're poor.
Nothing new there. And what I say is bring it on.
Bring it on? What does that mean?
Let it happen.
Let what happen?
People having to sell up. Move out. It's an opportunity.
Not if nobody can afford to buy.
Some people can, always. And the worse the time, the better they like it. Boom, not. Prosperity, not. Slump, yes.
What is this not? Not.
It's an expression.
I'm beginning to think I've had a stroke.
Did you see the Leonardo? The show?
The last show I saw was the Diaghilev exhibition in 1954.
The Leonardo was torture. People with headphones on bumping into you. Clumsy, smelly, crowded. The art, nowhere. And there's no need. What is the greatest luxury in the world?
Central heating.
It is having the place to yourself. What is the worst thing in the world? Other people. P-S-T.
I'm sorry?
People spoil things. May I speak to you in confidence and not wearing my saleroom hat? I also act for a group of philanthropists. Names would be meaningless. Let's just call them the Concern. The Concern has unlimited resources, truly unlimited, and is interested in acquiring holdings and properties on behalf of its members. Estates, great houses, moorlands, hospitals, of course, libraries, islands. Anglesey we recently bought, though that isn't generally known. The purpose of our communities, most of them, of course, being to impinge on common humanity as little as possible.
So you're like the National Trust?
Emphatically unlike. The reverse, in fact.
Oh, not.
The Trust is concerned with people, access. In a word, sharing. We ask the question, why should one share? Nobody really believes in sharing. One does it if one has to, but if one is in the fortunate position of being able to keep things to oneself, why share?
But why would your people, the Concern, want this house?
At first sight, not sharing might seem like selfishness.
You don't say.
It isn't. But we need a theory, a philosophy, if you like, to explain why. I see this house as a possible study centre for the Concern, a think tank, a seedbed of all that is best in England, untouched for 5 centuries, added to but not altered. It's an image of our nation, but no people, no other people, like-minded people, like-moneyed people, but as I emphasize again, we do not share. Dear God, what's that?
The coal!
The coal?
After the war, the park was requisitioned for open-cast mining. Came right up to the terrace. They got out all the coal, except obviously what the house is built on. So we now stand on a pillar of coal, and occasionally it grumbles.
But is it safe?
Yes. One isn't going to plummet into the bowels of the earth. They went into all that.
That rather reinforces what I was going to say. Love it as one does. South Yorkshire isn't a must-have location. We would want to move the house.
Move it? Why? It's very handy for Sheffield.
Picture this house in the coziness of Dorset, say, or well-bred Wiltshire. Warmer, handier, cleaner.
Dorset? Wouldn't the planners object?
Oh, dear, sweet, charming, innocent lady, no problem. We don't operate at that level. Would you mind if we did that? Moved you? You could live in the lodge.
I might not.
What would your objection be?
Love, Mr. Bevan?
Yes, I have heard of it.
Would they do an ensuite bathroom?
Would they do two?
I think you can be assured of that.
Yes. Now? Madam.
Already?
You know her.
You must go.
Really?
This minute.
Then let me quickly write down a ballpark figure of what the house and its contents might fetch on the open market. Whereas this somewhat larger figure, ballpark, again, what the concern would pay.
Oh, so you would pay more?
For discretion and a quick sale, yes.
We haven't got a ballpark.
One thing puzzles me. In the attic, there seem to be 2 or 3 rooms full of newspapers going back 30 or 40 years, just piled up.
Yes, I read them. At one period in my life, I got behind. Now I read one a day. I shall catch up.
How?
There's bound to be a strike, then I shall be laughing.
This house has been on our wish list from the start, so somebody else may pop round just to look things over. In any event, I shall be back next week and we can talk further.
Good. Off you go.
What is this?
Well, what does it look like? The cat's bowl.
Does this come with the contents?
It could do.
Where does that leave the cat?
The auction figure I told you earlier. Double it. Now put this away, somewhere safe.
He better be going.
We don't want you running into my sister.
Oh, no problem. It might be useful. I could put the proposal to her.
There is a problem. I'm the one who decides.
Goodbye. And remember, P.S.T.
Oh, well, what do you think?
I was brought up never to trust anyone in a camel hair coat. Still, no people, I like the sound of that.
You don't want to give them your necklace.
I don't want to give them anything.
Where is it?
Upstairs in a drawer somewhere.
Like a lot of things.
No problem. Oh. When you're alone and life is making you lonely, you can always go downtown. When you've got worries, all the noise and the hurry seem to help, I know. Downtown, just listen to the music of the traffic in the city. Linger on the sidewalk where the neon signs are pretty. How can you lose? The lights are much brighter there. You can forget all your troubles, forget all your cares and go downtown. Things will be great when you're downtown. Don't let on to June.
Me? What about?
The cat's bowl. Hello. Oh.
Oh, what?
Is this Mufti?
Say again.
Civvies. Now that you're Archdeacon of Huddersfield, I was looking forward to a touch of mauve.
These days we keep the formality to a minimum.
No cross even?
Archdeacons are the accountants of the church. A cross is not always appropriate.
Are you alone? Where's Mr. Thing, the trust man?
I told Mr. Lumsden to go round downstairs on his own. He'll come and see us when he's finished. He knows it's only a formality.
How's Guthrie? Still breasting the billows?
Oh, very much so. She swam the channel last week.
Oh, do you hear that, Iris? June's friend swam the channel last week.
What for? What happened to the boat?
The homeless train now, anyway?
It used to be such a performance, swimming the channel. Now it's like Everest. People do it after lunch. Big girl, is she?